States, however, the reverse ratio applies, in that the availability of Filipino healers is smaller than practitioners of allopathic medicine. This leaves a void for the Filipino who would rather go to a traditional Filipino healer for an ankle sprain or fever, but who would not hesitate to go to the hospital for an erupting appendix. Those issues brought me to some important questions when preparing this first volume. What is my point of view? What do I want to convey? What will be the reaction of the thousands of individuals who will listen to the contents of this book? First of all, I believe it is important to present traditional healing as it is practiced and to show the cultural, psychological, and historical framework from which these practices evolved. Although I have presented certain aspects in a scholarly manner, in no way do I claim to be a scholar with a doctorate degree from some prominent university. Passed on knowledge, actual cases, personal research, and the products of inquisitive, rational, creative, and spiritual minds support my writing. Thus, this answers the first and second questions. My point of view is a collective one, based on both my ancestral lineage and other respected practitioners of Filipino healing traditions who have shared actual experiences, true stories, and legends. Many of the terms and methods are common in the Amianan, or northernmost part of the Philippines. This may mislead others to think that I am biased toward the northern people, the Ilocanos and their neighbors in particular. But to use another language or dialect, unless used as a comparison, in describing practices other than from where they developed would be a grave mistake, because the local language or dialect used is perhaps the most accurate in terms of expression and meaning. While on the topic of the Amianan, I was struck when I came across a passage in a foreword written by Jose M. Cruz, Society of Jesus, for William Henry Scott's Barangay, 16th Century Philippine Culture and Society, in which he wrote that Scott had notes for a chapter on the Ilocos, people of the Ilocos Norte and Ilocos Sur provinces. But his passing away prevented its completion. Thus, this unfinished history gave me greater inspiration to conduct my research even deeper. The answer to the third question about listener reaction to this book required some pondering. In presenting these teachings, I am endeavoring to take the middle path, a transitional stage or nonlinear approach, intermeshing esoteric and metaphysical beliefs with progressive scientific explanations. For those who are strictly left-brain thinkers, they may logically have difficulty in this transition. On the other hand, right-brain thinkers may feel that the scientific explanations are too dense and limiting. In my style of presentation, I hope to balance both left-brain and right-brain thinkers into becoming whole-brain thinkers and healers. In many ways, this book is a personal interpretation of an existing indigenous scientific point of view, not one that involves numerous tests, recording of data, and hooking up to computers and machines of all sorts, but simply put, an indigenous science based on highly developed ancient practices that get results. In this way, traditionalists can feel at home with the numerous case studies, principles, and practices. At the same time, people who are driven by an analytical mind can be challenged to learn and discover a scientific basis to centuries-old traditions that have been successfully used to heal the body, mind, heart, and soul. Bias towards one way of learning is an injustice. But by taking the middle path, I believe that both sides are honored, forming a bridge for those who wish to experience the other side that for some is mysterious, alien, and perhaps even backward. This also gives them greater potential to pioneer new ideologies by breaking away from conventional thought and discovering hidden truths through the acceptance of infinite possibilities. To attain this, philosophies on healing are included for contemplation and inspiration. Another factor that inspired this writing began after I realized the complex history of the Filipino people, a history that ultimately influenced our modern mentality and views on who and what we once were as indigenous peoples with diverse practices and traditions. This first volume, along with the preceding manuscripts, were written with the intent to help heal the aftermath of a colonial mentality and to bring Filipinos, wherever they are, back to their roots so that the nation can pick up where it left off and develop from its original path. This does not mean returning to pre-colonial times. Rather, I want to point out that we have thousands of centuries in the making of a diverse group of people with an indigenous psychological and sociological structure that we use to function in life. For people to